blog posts or some sort of provide information also, which is accessible after the lecture because, well, it's quite natural that you don't remember everything from a lecture.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to IPR, it's a very complex topic with its patents and trademarks. It's got so many routes in different directions that we can't even expect the people to sort of fully understand everything that we talk about, even though we try to portray them as simply as possible. But even so, there's bound to be an amount of information that's going to pass them. But the underlying idea is to make them remember us at least. So they at least have one point of contact where they can ask their questions from.
Yeah. Well said.
So is it actually possible for a startup to contact you for consulting services?
Yes.
Yes, and that happens all the time.
They're even highly encouraged to do so.
You mentioned that you tried to send a message today to the startups. How would you summarize the message of today's session?
Be aware of IPR, and Jerry quite well summarized it, that one of our messages was a bit to scare the entrepreneurs, to be aware of some risks and to know that it's a complicated topic and you will most likely need the help of an expert to do it right.
Do you generally feel that the startup ecosystem in Finland is booming now?
I think the Finnish startup ecosystem is doing quite well at the moment, and there's definitely use for them. And in my opinion, it's a good time to be a Finnish startup. There's a growing interest towards Finnish startups, especially in the China area, for example. They're really, really looking at Finnish entrepreneurs and startups at all times. And Finland has, during the last years, gained quite a bit of media coverage throughout the world, and I think that's also been helpful to the startups as well.
And I definitely agree. It's a good time for startups in Finland. There are many people making it more or easier for startups to create a successful business, and just generally to higher the success rate for startups. And I think in the IPR field, just looking at the clients that come to us and comparing now to 10 years ago, the startups are now, they're more motivated, they have more information, they're more ambitious. Prepared, ambitious. So I think it's a great time to be a startup in Finland right now.
From your point of view, what is the key to success for a startup?
I don't know. In my books, I could summarize to be able to ask for help. We're not here alone, and there's plenty of different resources to be used, but you just need to be asking for help. It doesn't come to you automatically. If you open your mouth, great things are going to happen.
Yeah, well, one common answer to this question is the team, but I really believe in the team also, and you can. When you meet a possible new client for the first time, you sort of know quite fast, or you learn that, okay, this startup will be successful, or they have great possibilities at least to be successful just by meeting the team and seeing how they interact. So I believe in that answer.
All right, Linda, Jerry, thank you very much for being with us today and for the interview.
Thank you.
Hi, Mirza. So Red Brick Accelerator is coming to its ending point. Can you summarize it somehow?
Sure. We just entered the last week of the program, and yeah, wow, what a journey it has been for both organizers and our startups. It was full of long working hours and interesting workshops and so insightful information. So yeah, I think we'll be able to properly reflect on it just maybe a few weeks after.
Can we now figure out some kind of problems you faced during Red Brick Accelerator and some kind of challenges?
Oh well, yeah, it might have been a little bit more intensive than we expected. Yeah, 3 days a week, a lot of workshops, a lot of interesting sessions, and for our participants, it all happened too fast. So sometimes I'm wondering if they had enough time to reflect on it. But then on the other hand, working in a startup is all about generating results in a short period of time and under a lot of pressure. So I think in that case, it's also a positive experience as well.
How do you make Red Brick Accelerator more practical? How do you make sure that startups actually have some info they can use in their business?
From very beginning, our idea was to make this as practical as possible. Today, after the formal part, we had a more casual team group meeting with all startups. And obviously, there are some things that we can improve for the next batch in the way that we can make it even more practical. I noticed that startups like practical sessions. I think they are a little bit fed up with classical theoretical approach, like university setup. Let's have a presentation that we listen for 2 hours and then a couple of questions. I think they like more of interactive, dynamic session with a lot of icebreakers, a lot of real exercises that help them learn tools and stuff like that.
I also know that Red Brick Accelerator will end up with a demo day, which is basically the final competition. And I have 2 questions about that. First of all, could you comment on what we are going to wait on demo day?
Yeah, demo day is this Friday. I'm really excited about the demo day because for us that we are here every day, we know what's happening. But for audience that will be there, most of them have no idea what our startups have been working on this month. So I think it's just perfect way of showing each startup in 5 minutes what they came up with. You can expect a fun night. You can expect a networking opportunities. We bring together different market players who are all relevant for Tampere startup ecosystem.
Demo day also will show us the winners. And do you generally believe that competition is important for startups?
Oh yeah, competition is a key thing in startup world. Startups are all about competing with one another and really differentiating and making their own thing unique in that sense. So I believe it's a good practice and a good intro to people who have no experience in startup world. It's something that awaits them out there all the time. So the sooner they get used to it, the better.
And who and how will decide on the winners?
Well, on Friday, on the demo day, we have a jury, 3-member jury who will be carefully listening to their pitches and ask questions afterwards. By the end of pitching night, a jury will get together for 10-15 minutes and they will sum up their overall results. However, it's not only about the pitching event and that last night. These guys did an amazing job for last 4 weeks before pitching. So we must take that into account. And as we did weekly checkups when we have our metrics and stuff we measured, I think it's going to be a combination of results of demo day pitching and results of this 1 month work beforehand.
Okay. Since you work in close cooperation with startups, what do you generally think of startup ecosystem in Finland nowadays?
I think it's great, and specifically in Tampere, I think it's waking up. Since the beginning of 2019, I keep noticing so many new projects which pop by like mushrooms after the rain. It's really great to be part of this whole hype that happens around, and I think we are on the right track when it comes to that. Tampere seems more cohesive and united than before. I've been here for over 5 years, and I think so far it's been one of the most active periods when it comes to startup community over here.
In your opinion, what is the main key to success for an early stage startup?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can give exact answer, but also so I don't get too philosophical, I think that team goes a long way, both in my opinion and also statistically. Numbers show that most startups that fall and don't succeed, there's usually along the road something that went wrong with team, either bad leadership or simply team which doesn't perform as one, but they are a group of individuals working together. So if I really have to sum it up, I think team is something that people should really focus on rather than just idea.
Thank you very much for interview, Mirza, and for being a manager of this Red Brick Accelerator project. And if I ask you who will win this week, will you tell me?
Of course not.
Okay.
But thanks for having me. It was really funny minutes to share my experience so far.
So, hello, Darina.
Hi.
Can I ask you to tell a few things about your startup and about yourself in general?
Sure. Let's start with myself. I'm Darina and I come from Ukraine. Maybe most recently I used to work as a Tribe's community manager.
I know that now you're taking part in the Red Brick Accelerator as an early stage startup. What is your product or what is your service?
So I'm working on the digital service called Jako, and it's basically works for the sharing economy. And it started from my design projects, and I was thinking, well, okay, how can we make use of those things that we own, that we keep at home, but use very rarely, like that drill that you use only once, or the skis that you never actually go and go skating. Is there a way how we can share those things? So similarly, like Airbnb does for apartments, and Uber does for cars, I envisioned Jako as the service for smaller stuff that we have in our households.
So now do you work in the form of an app? Do you work in the form of a website?
Well, the idea is to have an app, yes. An app that is easy to use, that ensures the trust between the person who is renting their own stuff and the person who is borrowing. And so I was also thinking about the systems of reputation built inside the app, so that we can ensure that the person that are connected, they can be trusted with our beloved stuff as well.
Okay, that sounds like a very interesting idea to me, and I hear the spirit of Tribe's community in it. Speaking of which, how have you heard first about Tribe?
I used to work with one of the startups at the Tampere Startup Hub, and I was lucky to witness the whole idea starting and blossoming. And I remember very well that summer when we got the keys from this place at Pieninkatu 47 and started smashing the walls. There was such a mess here, and suddenly in September there was a huge opening party where everything kind of came to life and the Tribe started its work. And it was also after that party that I became the community manager. The very first thing I had to figure out is what are our opening hours? How do we make sure that this place is open? That was like the first thing. I remember it very well. And of course, now I think the development has been pretty impressive. And I'm also happy to see that there are always people who are keeping the place alive, and there's also this, generations, so to say, although it's a little bit more than a year, but there's always new people coming and taking the responsibility over the place in the community.
Now I feel very to talk with someone who was at the very beginning of Tribe here. Thank you for coming for the interview today. Speaking of developing of Tribe over this time, do you generally feel that it is helpful? Do you believe in networking in this kind of form?
Absolutely, yeah. The power of network is something that helps the society a lot. And what used to be, what kind of the sense of community that we got from our religion, from our, also as a society, we're kind of shifting a little bit away from there. And this kind of communities of interests, of passions are something that really helps grow people, grow our society as in total.
Well, the Red Brick Accelerator, it's almost there. We have only like 2 active days and the demo day left. What are your feelings after the accelerator is almost gone? What was the most useful you learned from it? And what was the main problem you faced during the accelerator? What was the thing you would do differently?
Yeah, I can't believe that it's already ending. The time flies indeed. So for me, probably the highlight of the program was the customer development and everything that was related to like finding your persona and defining who are you creating the service for.